The shot by McCormick is down in front. He scored! Harvard wins the national championship.
We're sitting in, and I know, Teddy, you're going to dispute this, but I will take this with me to my grave. He's smiling, so he acknowledges that everybody's quiet, and we're nervous, and Coach Cleary's not saying anything to us, and we're getting ready to go back out. And I just remember Teddy standing up as you were a vocal leader, and that's why I love playing with you and having you as a teammate in high school and college. And you start trying to get everybody going, and you look around and you say, you guys, you should all be salivating to get back out there. And all of a sudden, and you guys remember Coach Cleary's laugh. It's one of the most recognizable cackles. And he just looks at you and everybody else and starts laughing. And he just doesn't have anything to say. He's like, let's go, boys. And we went out there with a lot of fire and energy. And, you know, it takes us to only 4 minutes into overtime, Edzo. And, you know, you are the man of the hour. You're the guy who I think shaped our histories and our life trajectories more than you might ever imagine. You know, just walk us through the play. You get the honor of the last conversation piece of the night, the national championship call.
Wow, I'm not even sure I'm worthy of that honor, but I'll give it a try. I mean, it was a relatively harmless play. I mean, there was a face-off to the left, to the right of Rob Stauber, and you know, I sort of got position on my player, and I was able to get into the face-off circle before him and pick up the loose puck because Pete didn't win the face-off cleanly. It was sort of a draw. And so I was fortunate enough to get in there, get a stick on it, and I passed it back to Brian McCormick on the point. And once I did that, I started heading towards the net thinking, you know, there may be a rebound here. Let's see. And sure enough, there was. And again, I had escaped my player. I had gotten a little bit of open space. And so I picked the puck up. I was skating from left to right across the crease. And that's when I let go of the rocket of all backhands, the backhand and all backhands. I say that jokingly, of course. Listen, it went in. I think it went in because Stauber was expecting the fastball, and I gave him the changeup. Maybe that was why.
And so the length of time it's telling you you're taking to tell this story, the puck still hasn't crossed the goal line yet. And they're showing it simultaneously with this video.
Yeah, I know. And I remember watching it cross the line. I mean, I distinctly remember that. And when that happened, it was like, after that, it was like instant euphoria. You know, time stood still for a second, and everyone was jumping on, and it was pretty crazy. But when you look back at it now, it's not a terribly impressive play. I mean, after Lane beating Stauber and after Teddy nailing that bullet, I feel sort of inept after those goals. But I'll take it.
Nobody asks how they go in, Eddie. It's just that they go in, right? Yeah. And you know, that obviously was a magical moment. You know, one of the most amazing things in looking at the video after the fact, whether it was a couple days or 30 years, I still remember bald-headed Coach Cleary running around center ice looking for somebody to hug while we were all in the corner and celebrating with nobody to cheer for. But, you know, that's poking, of course, some fun at one of the greatest influences in all of our lives. But as we wrap up, because I know Nick can move some things throughout, I would love, Lane, just talk a little bit about Coach Cleary's influence on the team that year.
Gosh, I mean, there's so many ways that Coach Cleary influenced us. I mean, certainly as hockey players, but I think as Teddy said earlier, and I think we all believe, much more importantly as people, in terms of how to live your life, how to treat other people, what's important in life. And so the hockey piece was one very small part of the equation for all of us. I shouldn't say small, it was a very important part of the equation for all of us. But what Coach Cleary taught us about life and about being a good person, how to live your life, is something that will endure forever. And so, you know, I take away so much of that. And, you know, with Coach Cleary from an athletic standpoint only, just kind of skewing to that side for a moment, his competitive instincts, right? You know, the desire to excel and to kind of be the best. And we're going to do it our way. And this is the right way. And we all just so bought in. And when we won, I think Teddy said it earlier, you know, it was really, and Coach Cleary is so selfless, right? And we learned so much from him about that, but it wasn't just about us. It was about all of the Harvard community, right? It was about the students, the faculty, the alums, about showing that you could achieve this at the highest level in the most prestigious academic institution in the world, but still be the best hockey team in the country. And so I really felt like, for all of us, it was so important to share that experience together and to be able to set those goals and to win together, to do it the right way and to achieve that ultimate goal. And sharing was wonderful, but it meant so much to do it at Harvard, right? Harvard, from a historical standpoint, something that had not been able to be done, and to have a small part in that, to deliver that for the university, for Coach Cleary, for the alums, like you sort of wrap it all up. And I do remember like that whole experience was surreal. Like it's so, I describe the euphoria. I remember being at surreal of, oh my gosh, on the bench, did the puck go in? Like, did that really go in? Is it over, right? Did we win? And you're sort of like processing real time. And then it's just elation. And Coach Cleary was running around trying to hug someone. Fortunately, I had skates on, so I tackled somebody, I think, right? Just because I needed, and so, but like it's just one of those rare moments where you do end up winning the last game. And it doesn't happen a lot. You do it with 25, really, even the guys who weren't playing that night, I mean, injured, but you do it with 25 of your best friends who you've sacrificed so much with, gone through so much, the highs and the lows, and you get to share it with them and to share it with Coach Cleary and give him that ultimate victory that he so deserved for everything he did for all of us and for Harvard, and to give it to be a part of it for the Harvard community. I mean, it was an extraordinary ending to a wonderful season.
Well said, Lane. Does anybody have any memories? I mean, one of the things that I think is really special in the aftermath of the award, and maybe they did this for a time, but I know that it's not on, the president's agenda these days, that that we were able to go meet President Bush. I still have that picture here in my office, and that meant a lot. That I'll be able to at some point, when I pass, say that I got a chance to meet a president in the White House. That was a certainly special memory. Are there any other memories, guys, that you want to mention before we finish up?
The only thing I would say, Chuck, is you could sense, I think, going into overtime, like, hey, we're in overtime for the national championship, and we kind of had a little bit of a magical group, the kind of the stars had aligned. And I think that's probably, I'm guessing if you went down to the Minnesota locker room, it was also dead quiet because, they were trying to win a national championship in their home building, as well. But, I think, to me, like I said earlier, like it's really not just about that game. To me, it's about kind of the whole season, the trip to Europe, the beginning of the season, we're, talking fondly about, how little we did in the, in the preseason, but just the camaraderie and, the different personalities on the team. And, what I love about it is it's, you got Eddie, who scored, the most famous goal in the history of Harvard hockey, and maybe the most famous goal in the history of the Ivy League, because even though I think, Yale won it, they didn't win it in overtime. But he's so low key about it. And I think that's kind of the way the team was. I don't think for all of us, it was about winning. And, whether it was, Peter Savaglia that was the leading scorer, or it was Lane that was the Hobie Baker winner, or, we had goaltenders that alternated every game all the way through the national championship game. That would be, unheard of, in today's day and age. But I think each and every person that was on that team, and I say this even about guys that didn't play as much or as prominent roles, every single guy felt a part of it, and every single guy is super proud of not only the accomplishment, but more importantly, the people we got to do it with. And that to me is what's special. And that's why, I get excited to talk about it. It's more about the group we were able to do it with. That's what excites me. And I think that's the part to me that keeps on giving, because, you get to see your your teammates, and everybody's going on to do different things in life. But there's so many great guys on that team, and that was a highlight for all of us. But I think that the key was the people we got to do it with. I think also to hear Coach Cleary say after, this is for all the people that have ever gone to Harvard and all the athletes that have gone to Harvard, and this is proof that you can have it both. You can be a great student and be a successful athlete. So for us to kind of be part of all that, I think it's pretty special.
Edzo, so, as a team as deep as we were, there were a lot of guys who contributed throughout the year as unsung heroes. Tell us about those, depth guys who really, helped keep us on our toes and pushed us to be our best.
Yeah, right. And listen, a lot of those guys got a lot of playing time earlier in their Harvard career, right? Sophomore year, junior year, whatever. And then this particular year, because of the abundance of talent, they, unfortunately for them, played a lesser role, but they were still incredibly important on the ice, because when there was an injury and when they did get playing time, they contributed. But also in the locker room, right? They were a big part of the team. Guys like Craig Toucher, a guy like two freshmen, B. Cody and Tim Burke. They stepped into a lineup. They could have been impact player on any other team in the country that year, but they just so happened to walk into a program where there wasn't room that particular year. So they played, sort of a fifth line role, but they played it importantly. In fact, I was talking to Berkey not too long ago, and he reminded me that his very first college game, Weisbrod got hurt, so he slid in to play Wise's spot. He scored a goal in his first period of play, courtesy of the beautiful Pete Sedaglia setup, by the way. but on defense, like the depth on defense, right? Like Scott Farden or Pope or Greg Hess, again, Farden and Pope, who had a lot of playing time prior. There were just so many great players that they didn't get the playing time that I'm sure they would have loved to have had, but they were every bit as important, in the chemistry of the team, in the locker room, you name it, right?
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for our roundtable discussions tonight. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about the 1980-89 season. It was certainly one that was memorable for myself, our panelist, Ted Donato, Robert D. Ziff, coach of the Harvard hockey team, Lane McDonald, and Ed Crayer. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you at the rinks.